Welcome, everybody. This is the Astrology Podcast for Summer Solstice 2023. We are nearly halfway through the year. What do you feel about that? It's extra poignant because we have this aspect to Neptune, and I've been reflecting on that because, basic astrology, Neptune is at 27 of Pisces right now, yeah? So he's nearly at the end. If you know the zodiac, then there's 12 signs of zodiac, 30 degrees in each sign. And we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 27, 28, 29, 0 again. So 27 Pisces will be 28 Pisces, and it'll be 29 Pisces, and it'll be 0 Aries. And 0 Aries is spring equinox. Therefore, that Neptune is close to spring equinox. And now currently 90 degrees, or will be 93 degrees away from the summer solstice. 90 degrees is a square. So 93 degrees is still a square because you allow that. You when it's super precise, that's going to be really interesting. And that's 2026 when we see big changes. I think 2020 kicked off astrology that's just been more unusual and stark than a lot of the astrology we'd had previously. I can't say that for sure. Because I'd only been a professional astrologer for like 4 years at that point. And obviously people spoke about aspects and stuff, but I was always a bit like, yeah, blah, blah, like that. Everything now seems to be at 29 degrees or 0 degrees, or the first time this has happened for years and years and years. Like having Saturn and Neptune will meet in 2026 at 0 Aries. Okay, so 0 Aries is the first degree of the zodiac. This year we had a new moon there, and that was pretty exciting. We had 2 new moons in Aries. So this year's really kicked things off. 2020 sort of said, right, game over. We're done with that Capricorn shit. We had Jupiter and Saturn meeting in Aquarius and not in Capricorn anymore. I spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. We started things moving in 2020, and then we're really giving it a good shove this year. But it's 2026 where we are kind of not looking back anymore. And now that Pluto is back in Capricorn, Pluto retrograded back into Capricorn on the 11th of June. And we are in the slow and the old again. And I'm here with the window open. I've not got all my lights on because I bloody hate those lights. I think it's good. It's better for the show. I'm filming this for YouTube, and it's better to have the lights. But I don't think it's good for your body at night. And I don't. Also, it's downstairs, so I'm not going to get it, because I don't like it. And there's something about being a bit old and retro with Pluto at 29 Capricorn. That's my feeling. In the same way, you know how 2020 a lot of people had a shit time, but the people who had a lovely time and garden leave and all the rest of it were just basking in the glory of that Capricorn stop, of everyone just being like, well, we're not going to do anything. Well, time's going to slow down. You're going to sit in the garden. You're going to do simple things. You're going to bake banana bread. Again, Capricorn, like I said last week, is opposite to Cancer. So we had Saturn, Pluto. Is this too much astrology? I was thinking about this the other day. I was listening to someone else's pod being like, God, that's technical. Like, even when I read technical astrology, I'm like, bore off. Don't be technical. So in 2020, the big thing that happened in the beginning of the pandemic was Saturn, the planet, and Pluto, the planet, lining up exactly in the sky. And they lined up at 21 degrees of Capricorn. And as I alluded to last week, we've got Pluto in Capricorn again. He's just retrograded back into Capricorn. Capricorn is opposite Cancer. And Cancer is a sign ruled by the moon. It's like feed me and a family and nurturing and hugging and loving and all those very, very Cancerian things. And it's interesting that in the pandemic, we went hardcore Cancer. Stay at home, stay at home and bake banana bread. It was all very Cancerian. And again, as I said last week, this hadn't occurred to me until Pluto moved into Aquarius and it opposed Leo, because I've thought a lot about the Leo opposition in a way that I've never thought about in the same way, the Cancer opposition, even though I'm fully aware of all my Cancerian friends and family having Pluto transits. It's just the way I'm processing it. And I think it's because it's a new transit. Pluto's just moved into Aquarius, whereas Pluto moved into Capricorn. I didn't know about it in 2008. I mean, I felt it. I experienced massive transition in 2008. And I've written about this, I believe, recently, either in my newsletter or on my Instagram. I experienced massive transition, massive, to the point that when I learned that Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. That was a massive change for me. But I didn't know. So there we go. That's a little reflection at the beginning of the year. And tomorrow, the sun moves into Cancer. And I will read the solstice chart, actually. But first, I mean, this will be kind of irrelevant tomorrow, but yet not, because today we have the sun in Gemini, and also that we had the new moon in Gemini at the weekend. And I've had a lot of people message me about that new moon, being like, can you write about it? Can you tell me? Or, you know, I really enjoyed what you wrote. You can always tell when people reach out more than usual that it's been felt by everyone. And some people enjoyed it, of course. That's the wonderful thing about life and astrology, is we do all get influenced differently. But there was definitely a lot of people who were exhausted. And I feel that a bit now. Like I very much feel end of a cycle vibe. And that's probably just me hormonally as well. Like new moon vibes. We're still in the new moon phase until tomorrow. Somebody asked me about that as well, actually. Like, how long does a new moon last? Well, Dane Rudyard says there are 8 moon phases, and those 8 moon phases are new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, final quarter, waning crescent, new moon, back again. So they're the 8 phases. And from each new moon to the next new moon is 29 days, as opposed to the orbit of the moon is 28 days. But because the sun is moving too, the new moon to new moon is 29 days, because the moon has to catch up with the sun, and the sun is moving also. So from new moon to new moon, either 28 days or 29 days, divide it by 8, the 8 moon phases, and you get basically 3. So each moon phase lasts for 3 days. So your new moon, we're still new moony now, still like, and okay, it was a bit of a kickstart, but it's been square to Neptune, and Neptune rules sleep and drugs. And I've had some great naps. I had a great nap earlier. You know, you just like, I guess as well, like working from home allows it, but it's a low vibe, it's a low energy, and it's extremely emotional. It's very sensitized. It really is. And today as well, we've had, I'm going to just screenshot that before I lose it. We've had the moon in Cancer today, trine to Neptune. And the sun square to Neptune is like, woo. But that's creative and it's romantic, but it's a little bit slow. I'm kind of embracing it, but also ready for it to move. I want to, like, yeah, this is good for dance and like getting key insights, and I feel like I'm observing a little bit. But again, this could just be me. But you know, sometimes you're like in life and sometimes you're just observing. But I think coming back to women and the way we are cyclically, this is just a thing. And I'm really looking forward to getting, a few people have written to me about that as well, saying that they're a specialist in cycles. And I really need to get on with interviews, because if I want to grow the podcast, which obviously I do, interviews are a great way to do it, because the person who comes on the interview then shares the interview with their people, and then more people hear about me. So it's a bit dense to not be doing interviews. You know, it's like standard growth strategy, it's how we roll. But I'm committed to these, so I just crack on with this. But the interviews are great, the ones I've got lined up. I've got a couple of stashed ready for when I go away, and then we'll bring some more to life. Okay, so what have we got this week then? Summer solstice is the big thing. That is our big transit. Then we have Mercury will be sextile Mars also late tomorrow. Well, no, not late tomorrow at all. Sorry. I'll read from this is from the book that tells me all the aspects, but I prefer to read from the chart. But just while I list what's going on this week, it's easier to do it this way. So we have, Mercury Mars tomorrow. So hopefully a bit after solstice, after the summer solstice, Mercury and Mars, Mercury in Gemini, Mercury at 18 Gemini, Mars at 18 Leo. So that is pretty spicy, very creative, very like what I need to do tomorrow is write cycles, my moon journal. That's wonderful, wonderful energy for that. I'm going to crack on with that tomorrow and pull the tarot cards, because it's creative and it's articulate and it's like getting on with it vibes. We have the moon conjunct Venus tomorrow also, which is lovely, lovely, lovely. Yeah, so we've got a moon Venus in Leo. I'm pissed off actually, because everyone's going to be at Glastonbury having a great time. It's going to be really sunny. All these Leo planets are bringing the sun, wall to wall sunshine, blah, yeah. Like, can we believe it? Interesting. What brought the storms then? What brought the storms? Maybe Neptune has got big stormy vibes, and also sun at the end of Gemini in conjunct Pluto. That could probably be stormy vibes. But here in the UK, anyway, I don't know about where you are, how's the weather? It's been extremely hot and muggy today. But with Mars and Venus in Leo, we are seeing sun. We are seeing, Mars and Venus in Leo, which is the sun's sign. They are activating the sun, and it's glorious, being glorious, and it's almost like predictably glorious. So that's really nice. And then on Thursday, we got all the fixed things. So moon square Uranus and, well, not square Pluto anymore, actually. So it's a bit more chill now that Pluto's back in Aquarius. So the tension has slightly moved, even though it's still quite tight. He'd only moved a tiny bit, but ultimately he's in Capricorn, he's not in Aquarius for Western astrology. So that tension that I've been speaking about for the past few weeks is not the same, but we'll see. We will actually experience how these fixed transits seem, how different are they to how they've been over the past few months. Moon moves into Virgo on Friday, so we get a bit more organized, a bit more on it, a bit more, we've got a lot of Earth going on when the moon's in Virgo, because we've still got lots of Taurus, North Node, Jupiter, Uranus, and we still have again Pluto in Capricorn. So there's some very earthy vibes, and the opposing Neptune on Sunday. So that's sleepy, romantic. Kind of like that. It's also healthy. It's more clear out vibes. It's the Virgo moon needing to transcend and let go and stop being controlling, and maybe just go, okay, do you know what? I'm going to spend the morning organizing, but then I'm going to take the afternoon off and enjoy myself. But the Virgo moon all weekend is pretty productive. It's not exactly the party is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, when everyone is showing off about being at Glasgow. I might break in. Maybe. How am I going to break in? What aspects would allow a break in? Moon in conjunct Neptune, bit sneaky. Neptune's a bit sneaky. And no, I don't have much hope there. Moon trine Jupiter Friday night. That also makes the fun. I think the fun night is Friday night. Then when the moon's moved into Virgo, it's like Saturday night in, Friday night out. That's the kind of weekend. And then we have the second quarter on Monday. I've not read about that yet. Let's get that out. But I think the big thing, and Monday's a big day then. Okay, Monday the 26th is a big day. I'll tell you why. We've got Mars, the planet of anger, drive, assertiveness. He's very flamboyant. He's in Leo. He's like, show me, let me be center stage. He's got an opinion. He's not afraid to share it. He's very demonstrative, and he's squaring fixed Uranus. So we're getting the flamboyant Leo square to Uranus, and I don't think it ends well. Speaking as someone with Taurus planets who often comes head to head with people who have Leo planets, hopefully I'm wrong, but there's some kind of surprise that's jarring, and you have a conversation with someone and you think they're joking, because you're like, don't be ridiculous, like you don't even take it seriously. They disagree with you and it seems so mental what they're saying that you just laugh it off, but then they're not joking, and then they're angry, and then you're like, what? What do you mean? And bear in mind that whilst we're at this point, Mercury is at 29 of Gemini. So we've got Mercury at 29, savage mischief mode of 29 degrees, and where, you know, like people are just making shit up, and it's almost like a Mercury retrograde. It's not at all, but the themes of naughty Mercury, naughty information, naughty, just, you know, like traffic jams and just confusion and irritation, because Mercury is a communication planet, short distance travel, and he's at 29. So it's 29 often brings out the malefic, like the bad side of a planet. We've still got Pluto at 29 also. So we've got an inconjunct between the Pluto and the Mercury. Just bang my elbow, which is kind of thing that might happen to you on Monday, but harder. And so we've got Mercury and Pluto. Pluto is the planet of secrets, so we're getting things come out that we didn't want to come out. Or Mercury, we've had that already when Pluto moved into Capricorn. We immediately had Boris, Trump, all the leaders, like I was speaking about in the podcast last week. Sorry, I was eating a brownie earlier, and I've got brownie in my nails, if you're watching on the video. And I just realized I haven't painted my nails for months because they were so weak. They were peeling, like, you know, right down, and I didn't know what I was going to do about it. So I've been putting tallow on them and wearing gloves when I do my washing up, and I haven't painted them, and now they're really strong. But it means that I can't eat brownies because I get them down my nails. Anyway, so, but they're the tips for if your nails are terrible. So we've got the Mars, Uranus. Okay. So we've got Mars, the planet of anger and action, square to Uranus that says, F you, back off. Mercury at 29, Pluto at 29, those two forming a challenging aspect where we've got information that didn't want to come out. We've got people pissed off about the information that's coming out. We've got revelations that seemed shocking. We've got pushback from what is being revealed. We've got people saying it's lies and deception because Mercury is still really square to Neptune. Neptune's at 27 Pisces. Mercury's going to be at 29 Gemini. So we've got some kind of bullshitting, extreme bullshit to the extent where the bullshitter actually believes themselves to be telling the truth because they've told themselves a sob story, and they are like in the victim mindset so deeply that they convince themselves of a new reality. So just gaslighting and obfuscation and the kind of shit where you can't really see who is telling the truth. Like, you really have to spend some time alone and journal. And I've got someone, you know, I know people. I'm really good at spotting a compulsive liar, of which there are many. There are many compulsive liars. And I think maybe it's the need to fit in, you know, the need to be accepted. But I can smell one in minutes. And because I remember everything everyone said, when I start tracking it, I'm just like, God, this is weird. And there's a lot of them. I mean, I think that's all I wanted to say about compulsive liars. I just find it really remarkable that it exists. But we've got, with Pisces, Neptune in Pisces and Mercury in Gemini square to one another, we've got someone who doesn't know how to not lie. We've got someone who doesn't know how to not embellish and exaggerate. Particularly, again, we've got Mars and Venus in Leo, the storyteller, who wants to seem grand and wants to seem important. You know, that person at school, at primary school, who just always told a tall tale, and you kind of believed it, and you went home and told your mum, who would be like, I don't think that's true. And you'd be like, no, they said. But you know, you fell for it because it sounded great and they were so convincing and they were so confident. It's kind of that. We've got the confidence of the Leo, and then the delusion of the Mercury Neptune, and then the emotion and the confusion, and everybody's tired because they've maybe partied too much the weekend, and the whole thing is very, very interesting. Let's see what I wrote in cycles. So where are we? Final quarter moon. Okay, well, I'm not that impressed with myself this week. You know, normally I'm kind of into it, but here we revisit the new moon in Libra. In fact, I can't even be able to read it. I think it's average. What I've said is this first quarter gives us a boost, encouraging us to reach out, build bridges, and give yourself fully with a view to being met halfway in your self-expression. I think that sounds pretty bland, in all honesty. Okay, so at the time of the first quarter, Mercury is actually still at 28. So it reigns in that extremism. And if you think that Venus rules Libra and Venus and Mars are together in Leo, then that does bring some kind of bonding, healing. Venus is already in shadow. She's not yet retrograde, but when she retrogrades, she will be retrograding through these degrees again. So there is some kind of longer term conversation that is part of this picture. And I think the Pluto at 29, again, with that Venus retrograde and Pluto being retrograde, all of this is what I consider part of the 2023 love revolution, where there's stuff that's happened and now we're in the actioning, monitoring, reconsidering, processing phase of all of that. So that's the new moon. The new moon has a reconciliation. Look back to 9 months ago, to the end of September, and think about what your new moon intentions were for that new moon in Libra. And you're at a junction. What were you wanting from that new moon in Libra? What was going on around then? And how is this first quarter inviting you to reconsider and reconcile? And a lot of it will be about relationships, because it's Libra, and Libra is about how we relate to other people. So perhaps do have a look and think and sit with that first quarter on Monday. But after the first quarter on Monday, we have the Mars Uranus. And that Mars, just, I shouldn't laugh, but I just feel that it's going to be brittle. It's very brittle. His sense of humor failures. Maybe it's fun, Uranus, you can't predict the unpredictable, but you heard it here first. It's a deep breath aspect. I've made a reel on Instagram talking about, Mars transits, and basically how I burn myself and hurt myself at Mars transits, which means basically, bitch, like, do I even know what I'm doing? Well, yeah, I'm an astrologer. It means I can look at why I fucked up and know straight away, because I'm not there just tracking my life being like, oh, this is what it is. I should have been more mindful, but I wasn't. I was talking, and my friend had heated up the food, and I didn't realize that they'd fucking sent it to the sun to heat it up. And the potatoes were so crispy that they weren't giving off any steam. So that I just bit into it and nearly fucking died. I've never, ever, my gums, it's Tuesday evening, my gum, I can't brush my teeth properly because my mouth just bleeds. Like it was really terrible. And it's only afterwards I thought, oh, that was my Mars opposition. I mean, yeah, I should know that, shouldn't I? But I didn't because I wasn't paying attention. It's like a hairdresser, isn't it? That's what I remember, that guy saying that to me. I was like, it's a bit embarrassing making a relationship astrology TV show and being single. And he was like, no, all hairdressers have shit hair. So I continue to burn my mouth and don't track my transits properly. I track them a lot though. Come on. I'm joking. I've got a lot of transits going on. I've got a lot. But if you do want to understand transits, learn to predict. And a big thank you and apologies to the people who were kind of already in Learn to Predict. And then I went into it and was like, this needs an upgrade. So then I've been upgrading. And then I promised the people who are in it that I'll bring more people into it, because courses are better when there's more people in them. But yet somehow here we are. It's not yet live, but it will be soon. In a beta version, because I've done it once before, but I live taught it. I think that's the thing. I forgot how much I had loads of live Q&As. And this one now I want mostly pre-recorded, and then the Q&As will be additional as opposed to taught content. Anyway, that's you know about the moon, you know about the Mars Uranus, you know that we're now in Cancer season. And so Cancer season starts on Wednesday, the 21st of June at 3:58 p.m. UK time. And that just means literally sun moves into Cancer. It's a summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year. The sun is still in the sky, and it's extra poignant because it is square to Neptune. And so it is an invitation to be still, to do Neptune things. Neptune is meditation. If I were in the countryside, I would be straight on my meditation rock. I'd be straight there. And I'd like to think for all of us that with a Neptune transit with a Neptune aspect is easier for us to tap out, connect in, feel connected to spirit, feel connected to something else. The chart set in London has an ascendant of 0, Scorpio. When I set it for Nottingham, it was 29 Capricorn, Libra, Cardinal, 29 Cardinal, the sign before. And because my charts are always set to Nottingham. And so I was like, oh, 29. And then I just looked at London. I was like, ooh, 0 Scorpio. Either way, so we've got, that's obviously fixed. So we've got fixed angles. We've got the moon and Venus at the top of the chart, which says long, hot summer of love, I think. Where the moon is square to Jupiter and the Jupiter is on the north node in the 7th house. So we've got Uranus is also in the 7th, which brings us some interesting relationships with, this equinox chart would be solstice chart, excuse me, would be read for like how the country is relating to other people. And I remember Bernard Eccles saying you would read this chart. I think, which chart did the peasants read? I think, which? I went to talk at Christmas, and like the New Year's Eve chart is more like the city dwellers, I think. And the winter solstice chart is like the peasants, or vice versa. Because the New Year's Eve chart is always midnight, so the sun's always at the bottom of the chart, whereas you do get more information from these equinox and solstice charts because the sun is always in a different place. The sun moves into Cancer tomorrow at nearly 4 p.m, but sometimes it's 5 a.m, sometimes it's 11 p.m. Tomorrow it's going to be in the 8th house, sun in the 8th, so's Mercury. Finance. So we've got a Scorpio ascendant, finance, and sun and Mercury in the 8th, finance. So, and then Venus square to Jupiter, Venus ruling money, being money, square to Jupiter, which is a bit over the top. But with all the Leo at the top of the chart, perhaps suggesting we're just gonna print more and everyone's gonna pretend it's great and everything's gonna be like, woo, party. Bearing in mind Venus is gonna go retrograde and the whole thing's gonna come apart by October when we have that eclipse in Libra, Venus's sign, and the whole financial system goes. I don't know when it goes, like sound effects. Maybe I'm wrong, etc. But tick, 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 surely. Pluto at 29 Capricorn in the 3rd house of communications. I'm very curious as to how governments keep on handling their debt. I mean, I don't understand how all these countries in the West are, maybe not all in the West, but France, UK, America. I can't speak for any others because I haven't checked. But okay, that's what I'm saying. 8th house, it's also death. It's also the truth about deaths, potentially, the information, 8th house, secrets, sex, death, other people's money. So sex, scandals, deaths, okay, money, and other people's money, i.e. taxes, sex, death, and taxes, 8th house. So with the sun and Mercury in the 8th house of sex, death, and taxes, that's what we're looking at. And I'm not an expert at reading these charts in this way because I don't do it much, basically. I'm not in the practice of reading these. I'm not in a mundane way. But I think interesting trade deals, perhaps with Jupiter and Uranus in the 7th house of partnerships. I know that can be about trade deals with other countries. And it could be a beneficial trade deal, but with Uranus there, maybe it's with Australia or somewhere not close because Uranus is obscure. And also Uranus is kind of a symbol for Australia because Australia is Aquarius, because Australia's birthday is the 26th of January. So I can't be sure. I think as well, with the Pluto in the 3rd house of communication and Pluto being the chart ruler, because Scorpio is rising, that we might be looking at secrets. 3rd house is communication, Pluto rules Scorpio, so Scorpionic communication is secret communication or communication that wanted to be hidden, communication that didn't want to come to light. So I think that very interesting. And that tells us then from now until autumn equinox, so the next 3 months, the next quarter, if we speak in astrological quarters, which go from the solstices to the equinoxes, and we get a flavor of what's coming by reading this chart. Okay. Horoscopes. Let's do some horoscopes. But what am I going to do horoscopes for? Maybe let's do horoscopes for Cancer season. Okay, let's do horoscopes for Cancer season. And just a word on horoscopes whilst I'm here, because I've been pondering this over the past week or so, because I've had a few people message me being like, oh, I've heard this in a horoscope and this is happening to me. What do you think? When I finished my 3rd year at the LSA, we all sat there being like, okay, how do we make our astrology business? And we were talking about, what do you do? How do you get your name out there? And I remember Frank suggesting writing horoscopes, and we were like, we hate horoscopes. We hate them. We don't want to be any part of horoscopes. I passionately hated horoscopes because, you spend 3 years at astrology school, once a week. It wasn't like uni, but still. And I devoted 3 years to reading, going to every extra thing I could get my hands on. And you learn about the precision of astrology and 29 degrees this, square that, inconjunct that, blah, blah, blah. And then the newspapers are still going, oh, well, Virgo, this is about your work and your daily routine. And I hated it. It really pissed me off because as well, it's fuel for haters to say, well, astrology's bollocks. And I was like, well, yeah, like I used to just say, ignore, oh, the sky looks beautiful. Beautiful. We'll take a photo of that. Ignore what you read in the paper. Ignore the horoscopes. They're kind of bollocks. And then I started writing them because people ask and you're like, well, I kind of think it's bollocks, but fine. If you're going to put me in your newspaper, then that's going to help me grow. So I'll write some horoscopes. And then I'd be like, okay, do you know what? I'd be writing it and I'd think of my friends and my family as I was writing it. And I'd be like, kind of fits. Weird. And there is always, when I'm reading them, you can kind of go, okay, I see this. And when I just, I do them in flowing on here, there is a truth to them, but they are still generalized. And someone can see something, like for me, because I'm a Sag rising Gemini, but my moon is in Taurus, my Venus is in Capricorn. Jupiter being on my Taurus moon is obviously a beneficial transit, or, as I always say, Jupiter 80-20 rule, probably a very beneficial transit. But if you read my horoscope, then Jupiter's in my 12th house, so it's pretty average. And the horoscope would say, well, you're focusing on your unconscious at the moment. Maybe you're doing a lot of unpicking of things. And yes, on the one level, this is true. Jupiter is in my 12th right now, but it's on my moon and it's trying my Venus, which is great. And that's why horoscopes are bollocks, because it's only half true. And so I still make them because there is a half truth to it. And for some people, they will really speak to them. And on one level, the advice is fantastic because it's guidance. It's guidance that in some way is true for you, but it's also not really completely accurately true. And it kind of negates what astrology can do if you understand the intricacy. So that I just wanted to make this speech because I've never actually said this. I've said it at live events, probably. This definitely isn't the first time I've had this rant, but I've never said it on my Instagram, and I've never said it on the pod. And I've also been doing horoscopes on the pod quite happily. But I just want to tell you, because I think the more I get DMs about horoscopes, so I'm always just like, God, you need a reading. If you're thinking about changing jobs and you're making big decisions, don't make them based on your horoscope, because the horoscope is not showing you the whole picture. Take them as guidance. There is a wisdom. There is a genius in knowing where the eclipses are falling, which always read for your rising sign and which houses are the eclipses falling in, which house is Jupiter transiting, that the house that Jupiter is in, the house that Mars is in, they are activated. That is, you need to know these things. You don't need to, you are going to benefit from knowing these things, but it's still not complete. And I have softened in my ways. And I remember one of my teachers being like, you're really mugging yourself off here, because you could write horoscopes for a magazine and be great. And I always said at the beginning of my career, I'm going to be a really successful astrologer and I'm never going to write horoscopes. And I have never, I'm doing quite well. I've been in a TV show, but I've never had a horoscope column. And I was running around the park thinking about that at the weekend, thinking, cool. Even if my progress is super fucking Taurus moon, slow, plod, 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 if when I'm 50 years old, I manage to make it as an astrologer and I've never had a job writing sun signs, then fucking cool is what I think, even though it might slow me down. And if a magazine asks me, if Tatler are like, do you want to write the scopes? I'll be like, sure. How much is your budget? But would I do also, I don't like doing it. I can speak them to the podcast because I just do it and it takes 10 minutes or however many minutes and I just do it. But writing them, I find utter torture because I get distracted. And probably if I were diagnosed as being ADHD, then I could blame that. But otherwise, I'm going to say it's my Gemini rising and the fact that I get bored. Because ultimately, you're reading the same sky 12 different ways. And it's like, just kill me. On that note, here's your scopes. All right. So, Aries. Aries, with Mars, your ruler, in the 5th house, you are having the summer of your life. I mean, you could be having a really lovely time right now, Aries, particularly now that Venus and the moon as I speak. So Thursday, Friday, you've got an absolute party going on. I hope you're really enjoying yourself. The sun has just moved into your 4th house. So there's more focus on your home, where you live, your family. Maybe you want to spend a bit more time with your family. Maybe your family is stressing you out, particularly towards the end of Cancer season. You might be really thinking about upping sticks and leaving and absolutely transforming everything. Maybe you want to renovate your garden. Maybe there are some challenges going on at home, or maybe even at work, because whatever's going on at home is a reflection of what's going on in your 10th house. But transformation doesn't have to be savage. It can also be time. It can be ripe, and you're finishing off what's been going on since 2008 if you're old enough, or at least over the past few years if you are younger. Taurus, also your ruler Venus is in Leo and she's conjunct Mars. So you two are having quite a lovely time. You're having a lovely time at home with Mars and Venus. So maybe you're entertaining, you're socializing, you're cooking, there's a strong entertaining vibes, I think, because it's in your 4th house. You're redecorating, you're gardening, you're pouring the pims, you're barbecuing, you're just having a lovely, lovely time. You enjoy being outside anyway because you're Taurus. The North Node, Jupiter, and Uranus is in your 1st house. This is a time of big expansion for you. And yeah, maybe just enjoyment. Perhaps you're working from home, perhaps you're earning more money from home, you are spending time with all sorts of relatives. You could have moving a partner in. I mean, that would be very interesting, Taurus, particularly, again, bear in mind that your ruler is going to go retrograde in July. So you're having a lovely, lovely time now, but Venus is already in shadow and some change could be brewing. It doesn't have to be bad change, but it could also be like the beginning of someone or something, a new phase in your relationship. If you're married, it's just like getting to know each other on a new level, enjoying each other again, that kind of vibe. Jupiter is in Taurus, it's bringing you expansion, but of course Jupiter also will show you where the problems are. So if there are any flaws or problems or challenges in what's going on for you, then they will show themselves now too. Gemini, your ruler is still at home, so you're having a super social weekend and chit chat, all the things that you love, with Mars and Venus in your 3rd house. You're feeling good about yourself. The focus since the sun moved into Cancer is on your self-esteem, your values. Perhaps you're charging a little bit more for your ability to bring people together, and you're focusing on your self-esteem, and you're feeling, I'd say you're feeling pretty confident. But like I've already alluded to with Jupiter in your 12th house, perhaps also some of what has been holding you back, what has been stopping you from feeling confident and feeling good about yourself, that you're working on some of that kind of childhood stuff or past life stuff, whatever it is, in swamping around in your unconscious. Mercury, your ruler, moves into Cancer on Monday the 26th, where he will stay until where he will stay until the 11th of July, and then he will move into Leo. So you got a very quick transit of your ruler in your second house of money and finances. So if you do want to up your game, bring in some cash and rethink your relationship, rethink how you feel about yourself and how you express yourself and how you ask for stuff. You've got that window, 26th of June to the 11th of July, and then Mercury will be in Leo, joining Mars and Venus, and that again is brilliant for getting on the stage, because then you've got a stellium in your third house of comms. I'm really overdoing it today because I just said it in my horoscopes. I don't like horoscopes. I hate this. Okay, so Cancer, it's your season. You are in the spotlight. You will be feeling, you're starting a whole new cycle. You've spent the past, all of Gemini season is a bit of ruminating and thinking about things in the background. And this month, all eyes are on you. The full moon on the 3rd of July, or the 4th. I'm not checking that. We'll be talking about the full moon. That weekend is a full moon. You'll feel it for more than one day. Let's say the 1st, 2nd, 3rd of July, and maybe the 4th. We are feeling into that full moon in Capricorn in your 7th house, Cancer, and it's going to really show you about the work that you've been doing and what's been going on in the background. Jupiter is in your lucky section of friends and network, so you've got a lot of people around you. You're enjoying yourself. You've got some lovely friendships, and but with Pluto now back in your 7th house as well, Pluto's back in Capricorn, a lot of this relationship stuff that has been brewing since 2008 is sort of coming, a spotlight. Full moons are a spotlight, and they are a full circle moment. They are a completion. And with Mars and Venus in your 2nd house, you too are thinking about how you feel about yourself and your self-esteem, and it's giving you a new sense of confidence. Leo, Mars and Venus in your sign, Pluto has left you alone, Saturn has left you alone. I think, Leo, this is lovely for you. You've had a shit few years. Like Saturn being in Aquarius in your 7th house of relationships hampered your relationship with yourself, hampered your relationships with others. You weren't allowed on the stage. You weren't allowed to perform. We were locked down for half of it. It wasn't great. But now Mars and Venus in your sign, when Venus goes retrograde in your sign, July and August, July 22nd to September 3rd, then you will be thinking about what you've learned, because you have had a bit of a few rough a few challenging moments, and you are having a break. Pluto is coming back January the 23rd next year, and will you love that? Maybe you will. Pluto can be empowering, but either way, you've been left alone. Mars square to Uranus on the 26th of June, as aforementioned in the podcast, could be a spicy day, because there is a little bit of tension brewing from the Taurus Scorpio planets and the eclipses. If you've been caught up, as in your birthday's been exactly 3 months before or after an eclipse, then it's a big push to be different. It's a big push out your comfort zone, and the fixed signs don't like change. But I still do think that I would hope for you that you're having a lovely summer. Virgo, Mercury again, like with Gemini, your chart ruler is in your 10th house of career at the moment. He's going to move into your lucky zone of friendship, 26th of June to the 11th of July. Lovely, socialize, get out there. Mars and Venus are in your 12th, so you're kind of like ruminating, and that Venus retrograde from the 22nd of July to the 3rd of September is going to open you up and show you why you've made some dodgy decisions or why you feel about things the way you do. But with Mercury coming into your 11th, you're having great conversation, really good conversations with your friends. Saturn is in your 7th. Your relationships are upgrowing. Maybe you've got a therapist. This would be a good time to have a therapist or an astrologer or a tarot reader or someone to bounce your thoughts and ideas off, because the Saturn's in your 7th, Mars, Venus in your 12th, and then soon Mercury from the 11th of July will also be there, offering you a great opportunity to understand things that have previously been you've been blind to, and now your eyes are a bit more open. Also with Jupiter in an earth sign, I think that also is opening you up for healing. Libra, your chart ruler, is in the 11th. Lovely. Socializing also, much like your Venus ruled friends Taurus. The moon will have that first quarter moon in Libra on the 26th of June. And you look back to your birthday time, Libra, particularly the September born Libras, and look at what you were manifesting back then, because it's being gifted to you and you're having an opportunity to be like, do I still want this? How much do I want this? How am I going to make this work? And when Venus goes retrograde, of course, and then you have that eclipse in Libra on the 14th of October. Woo! You shouldn't laugh. But change is coming, mes amis, for all of us. This is love revolution, particularly for the Venus ruled signs and Leo and maybe Aquarius. But what am I going to say? How do I follow this? Things are changing. Libra. That's what I could say. Things are changing. And it's also, a lot of it is your relationship with yourself. Libra has been a sign that's codependent. The collective, people are understanding more that people pleasing, whilst lovely, isn't helpful. And a lot of those people pleasing skills have been going away, and you are now being opened up into the possibility of how life would be if you didn't do things that you didn't want to do, and you're understanding and communicating more about how you want things to be. The sun is in your 10th, your career is on the boost, you're up and away. This is growth, and that's like more the whole year, not just Cancer season. But at the minute, Cancer season, you're very much focused on work. We're only halfway through. Scorpio, Jupiter's in your 7th. Lovely. Uranus in your 7th. So your relationships are really changing. Saturn's in your 5th. Those love affairs are either lacking, or you've got a partner who's much younger or much older, and it's pretty getting serious. If it is getting serious, the sun is in your 9th. You're thinking about learning and traveling and getting abroad. Your ruler, Pluto, is back at 29 Capricorn, and you're being pushed to question and discuss the things that you've been sitting on. Really, anything that's turbo repressed is being challenged. Sag, with your ruler in Taurus in the 6th house, you are upping your health game. I hope so. Maybe abroad. I feel that when I go to the Maldives, speaking as a Sag, that this is going to be like some kind of detox retreat for me. Even though I'm going to work in a hotel for 3 weeks, I feel like the fruit breakfast buffet is, I'm going to eat the fruit. I'm not going to have any tea or coffee for 3 weeks because I don't eat it as much on holiday. I'm going to be like, I'm going to have lemon water and fruits. So yeah, I feel this to be true. I keep saying lightning, but there's no storm. But that's Jupiter speaking. So Jupiter North Node in your 6th, you're upping your health routines and you're actually doing it. And there's an opportunity for you to do that. But also Jupiter can just not do that and just eat all the cake and overindulge. The sun is in your 8th. So you are looking at some of the darker parts of life, sex, death, other people's money, but maybe you are investing. Maybe you're thinking about your investments and you are thinking about what you want from your intimate relationships, and maybe looking at your relationship with yourself. Mars and Venus are in your 9th, blessing you with trips and all the stuff that you love. The 9th house is higher education, travels. So maybe you're teaching, maybe you're planning trips, maybe you're going like I am to work abroad whilst Venus is in my 9th. You see these, I'm bringing it back to me because I'm checking whether it works, because a lot of people do also, sorry to just interrupt you, Sag, but do you read the horoscope for your rising sign or your sun sign? A lot of people do just read it for Sag, even though, you know, really should read it for Gemini because I'm rising Gemini. Again, this is a question I get asked a lot, but you could just read both. Okay. So Sag, you are expanding your health, work routine, and also I think your investments. I think it's really important to think about your money and not be over the top, because also like that, you know, Jupiter square to Venus in the sky, Sagittarian being like, oh, it's nice weather, I'm just going to book all the flights, it'll all be fine. It'll be fine. And you know, you don't want to fall into that. So a sense of healthy realism and budgeting and planning things carefully, maybe getting rid of some stuff, or we're always getting rid of stuff with Pluto at 29 Capricorn in your second house. Second house, again, how do you value yourself, and how much have you got, and time to take a serious inventory of what you need, I think, with Pluto in the second there. Capricorn, Pluto is back in your sign, and the sun is in your 7th house for Cancer season. That means the full moon will be in your sign on the 3rd or 4th of July. So we are re-exploring your relationship with yourself, your confidence, how things have grown over the past few years. Saturn is in your 3rd house now, and you're learning to express yourself, learning to express your needs, learning to meditate, learning spiritual connection. Saturn's in Pisces. You are being gently led to explore how to connect with your emotions, because Capricorn is a very emotional sign. It just doesn't know how to be emotional. And with Cancer, the sun in your 7th house, it's really starkly reflecting that. And perhaps this is something that could come up at the full moon, like a final outburst of emotion that you've been sitting on because you've been maybe people pleasing your partner, who could be being a bit dominant. And I'm looking here at, again, that first quarter moon on the 26th of June, where we have the moon in Libra, and she will quickly oppose Chiron, the wounded healer, on Tuesday the 27th. So I think there's some conversation, like from the 26th, 7th of June all the way to the full moon. Capricorns, any of the cardinals, really, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. But I think in particular, Capricorn is time to say the things that have been on your chest. Aquarius, your ruler is in Uranus. It's at home, rug pulls. Are you moving? The sun, this Cancer season, is in your 6th. Focus on your health, your daily routines. Are you looking after yourself? Are you nurturing yourself? Or are you doing the opposite because you're contrary, Aquarius? Pluto's back in your 12th house, and you've got to observe and unpick why you do the things you do. As much as all of that is anathema to you, and you think things that apply to everyone else don't apply to you, maybe it's time to accept that things do apply to you, or consider that they might. And that actually behaving in a more routine and order way, instead of living like a nocturnal meme addict, you know, or a nocturnal astrologer. I mean, I'm not Aquarius, but here I am, 20 past 10, all the lights in my face, going against everything I advocate for. So basically, don't do this. Would be a good place to start. Mars and Venus are in your 7th house. Much like I already said to Leo, you're having a break. Pluto's not in Aquarius. Saturn's not in Aquarius. You have finally, you had 2 weeks in March like this, and now here we are again for the rest of the year with neither Saturn nor Pluto in your sign, because you've really had quite some intensity. So now you've got Mars and Venus in your 7th, and it's quite open and loving. And then Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac, with Neptune at 27 Pisces and Saturn in Pisces. You are going through a growth phase. And with the sun in your 5th house, you are focusing on your romance. It's lovely. You're having a great time. And not just romance, your creativity, your children, you're playing, Pisces. Mars and Venus are in your 6th, so your work does look like play and feel like play. And maybe you are doing something that highlights and showcases your creative talents. Mercury will also move into Cancer on the 26th of June, only adding to your expressiveness and the joy, the focusing on joy. 5th house is joy. But of course, you're having lessons, but that could also be you're focusing on your joy and you're getting serious about it, because it is a trine. We've got the sun will trine Saturn, I guess, on the 28th, Wednesday, the 28th. So that's a day for making that play serious. Have you got something you want to put out into the world? It's a waxing moon cycle. It's a great launch time. It's a great new idea. Jump on the bandwagon. We've got some outer planets retrograde. Saturn is retrograde. But it's still a good time for rethinking and trying new things and jumping in the water, so to speak. Okay, those be your horoscopes, and this week was this week's Astrology Oddcast. Thank you so much for listening. As always, please do write. What do they say? Rate, review, subscribe. Subscribe to the Oddcast so you get it every week. Send it to your mates. Tell them to listen to their horoscope, because horoscopes are really, really important. And yes, all the usual things that I always say, like learn to read your birth chart. We've done it. I don't know when I'm doing it again. January, maybe November, probably not November. Depends what happens when I go to South America. Am I going to come back, or am I going to go live in the jungle? Should I know these things? No, I can't know, because Uranus is on my moon. Anyway, subscribe to my newsletter. I will send it. And the community is coming. This full moon is on my Jupiter. And that would be a good time to put something out there, especially a beta version, like a founder member. Not really sure what this is, but let's finally get on with it. So that I would love, love, love to get the community rolling. But I say this a lot in the podcast. I'm not going to say it again. Okay. Thank you so much for listening, and see you soon. You have been listening to Francesca Oddi on the Astrology Oddcast, where we talk about the astrology of the week, weave in some stories, give you some horoscopes because it helps people download the pod, gives them a reason to click it. And soon I've recorded some interviews, but weaving in astrological interpretation into interviews with really fascinating people that I think you need to know about. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next week.